On any given morning at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, something strange happens. A Gulfstream G650 lands on the tarmac. The stairs fold down, nobody gets off. The crew refuels, files a new flight plan, and takes off again. Empty. This exact scene plays out thousands of times every single day across private aviation. Up to half of all private jet flights carry 0 passengers. They are flying to nowhere, just burning fuel and racking up bills with nobody on board. These are called positioning flights, or empty legs, and they are one of the pricier features of an industry that never met an inefficiency it could not finance. The jets are real, the flights are real, the costs are very real, the passengers less so. And the uncomfortable truth is that this is not a glitch, it is the operating model. Today I will walk you through why it happens, how companies try to patch it, why the patches usually peel off, and who ultimately foots the bill when a $60 million aircraft crosses the country with no one inside. Commercial airlines operate on schedules. They know weeks in advance that flight 1842 from Dallas to Atlanta leaves at 3:47 p.m. every Tuesday. They sell tickets. The plane goes whether it is 80% full or 20% full, because the route is already planned. Private aviation works completely backwards. The jet does not move until someone with money says, "I need to go from point A to point B right now." Imagine you are a tech chief executive officer in San Francisco and you need to get to a board meeting in New York tomorrow morning. You call your charter broker. They find you a Gulfstream G550 sitting in Los Angeles. One problem, it is in the wrong city, so that jet flies empty from Los Angeles to San Francisco just to pick you up. That is the first empty leg. You fly San Francisco to New York, and that leg makes money. But now the jet is stuck in New York, with its home base back in Los Angeles. After dropping you off at Teterboro, it flies empty all the way back. That is the second empty leg. One paying customer, 2 completely empty flights, and those empty flights cost essentially the same to operate as the one with the client on board. A large jet like a G550 burns roughly $3,500 to $5,000 worth of fuel per hour. Add crew, landing fees, parking, insurance and maintenance, and you're at roughly $8,000 to $15,000 per flight hour. The Los Angeles to San Francisco positioning leg might cost $20,000 to $30,000. The New York to Los Angeles return might cost another $40,000 to $75,000. In total, the operator can spend $60,000 to $100,000 on empty flying to complete a trip that earns $80,000. This happens everywhere. If a family in London wants to fly to Dubai, but the jet is based in Paris, it flies empty to London first. If a CEO finishes a meeting in Miami and flies back to Chicago, the jet either sits in Miami racking up parking fees, or it flies empty back to base. Some corridors are more common, such as New York to South Florida, New York to Los Angeles, and South Florida to Los Angeles. But even on busy lanes, aircraft reposition constantly. Private aviation is wonderfully flexible for the client, and wonderfully inconvenient for the aircraft. Between 30% and 50% of all private jet flights are estimated to be empty legs, and some insiders suspect the figure is higher. Roughly half the private jets in the sky right now are flying with 0 passengers, burning tens of thousands of dollars per trip, and someone has to pay for it. Originally, that someone was you, the customer. A chief executive officer flying one way from New York to Los Angeles might be quoted $120,000 because that price included the cost of the jet flying back empty. But about 15 years ago, brokers realized they were sitting on wasted capacity. What if, instead of absorbing the cost of an empty leg, they tried to sell it? So they started listing repositioning flights on websites and apps, including JetSmarter, Victor, Private Fly, Wheels Up, and JetLinks. Suddenly, you could browse empty legs, much like commercial options, only with fewer passengers and more leather. The discounts were massive. A normal one-way charter from New York to Miami on a light jet might cost $15,000. An empty leg going that direction the same day, $4,000, sometimes less. Some companies started offering fire sales. If a jet needed to reposition within 24 hours, they would slash the price by 75% or more. Google searches for how to book empty leg flights have reportedly jumped 120% to 180% in the past year. People are catching on, so this sounds like a win-win. The operator makes some money instead of nothing. The passenger gets luxury at a fraction of the price. Except it is not. Empty leg flights almost never work out the way passengers hope. First issue, flexibility. An empty leg is a flight going from point A to point B at a specific time on a specific day. You do not get to pick any of those variables. Maybe you find the perfect route, but it leaves from an airport 2 hours away, or at 6 a.m., or it only has 4 seats and you are traveling with 6 people. You are trying to fit your schedule into a plane that was never designed for you. You are just filling a gap in someone else's itinerary. Second issue, cancellations. You book an empty leg from Teterboro to Aspen for Friday and you pay up front. The night before you get an email saying your flight has been cancelled. The original customer changed their plans, their trip is off, and so is yours because the jet is not going to Aspen anymore. Reports suggest roughly 1 in 4 empty leg flights gets modified or cancelled before departure. And here is the worst part. You might not get your money back. Some operators rebate the original customer first. You, the empty leg passenger, are secondary. In some cases, you have signed terms that say you are still liable for payment even if the flight does not happen. You paid $8,000 for a private jet that never took off. Even if your flight is not cancelled, it can still be moved. The primary customer wants to leave at 9 a.m. instead of 2 p.m. The jet does not wait for you. Third issue, the economics still do not work. That Teterboro to Aspen leg might cost $30,000 to operate. If they sell the empty leg for $8,000, they are still losing $22,000. Better than losing $30,000, but not profitable, and operators cannot survive on empty legs alone. The business model depends on high-margin flights where customers pay full price. If everyone only flew empty legs, the whole system would collapse. So operators discount just enough to attract budget-conscious flyers, but not so much that it trains customers to never pay full price. It is not a sustainable solution. It is a band-aid. So who is actually paying for all these empty flights? The wealthy people who charter jets at full price. Every time someone books a round-trip charter, they are subsidizing the system, covering not just their own flights, but helping offset the empty positioning flights the operator ran that week for other customers. Full-price customers are essentially subsidizing the entire operation, including the discounted empty legs that other passengers brag about on Instagram. This is why private aviation is so expensive to begin with. It is not just the jet or the fuel, it is the inefficiency built into the system. Half the flights are empty, half the costs are going toward moving planes around with nobody inside, and all of that gets baked into the rates that paying customers see. Now, some argue that empty legs are more sustainable than regular charters because the plane was flying anyway. Technically true, your presence does not add much extra carbon to a repositioning flight, but that ignores the bigger picture. The reason that jet is flying empty in the first place is because private aviation is designed around on-demand service for individual customers, which inherently creates massive inefficiency. Empty legs do not solve the environmental problem. They just make people feel slightly less guilty about contributing to it. Charter companies have started investing in sustainable aviation fuel, carbon offsets, and electric aircraft prototypes, but the core issue, half of all flights being empty, has not changed, and it probably will not because the business model depends on it. So here is what it all comes down to. Private jets fly empty because the entire industry is built on flexibility for the customer, not efficiency for the operator. Operators try to resell those legs at a discount, but the system is unreliable, inflexible, and still unprofitable. Passengers who score a cheap empty leg think they have beaten the system, but they are really just getting the leftovers of someone else's expensive trip. and the ultra-wealthy customers who pay full price are the ones subsidizing the whole operation. In private aviation, the most expensive seats really are the ones nobody sits in. Before you go, do take a moment to like and subscribe. Consider it a small administrative task that helps keep this operation running smoothly, unlike certain aircraft that insist on commuting across the country alone.